Shalom, 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 shalom. First, I want to give all the praises and the glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Fakar Kadash. Yahweh is the Father's name, which means He is. Yahweh Shai is the Son's name, which means He's the Deliverer. Rakar Kodash, this means the Holy Spirit in the Hebrew, as we always give salute to the Father and the Son. Yeah? So you understand. So today's second part, we're going to do a second edification today because we kind of finished a bit suddenly early on the highways and hedges earlier today. Now, for those of you that was tuned in earlier, the reason why we cut the feed earlier was because it became too hot. It became too hot. I felt like I was getting sunstroke. So I had to cut the feed immediately to get some more water and to cool off. And we couldn't continue earlier today outside because it was too hot. As you may know, we're going through a heat wave here in the United Kingdom. It must have been about 32, 33 out there this afternoon. Tomorrow it's going to be 41, 42 degrees. Tuesday it's going to be 40 degrees again. So it just became too hot today, too bearable. Kind of lost my bearings and the heat took the most of me. I felt dizzy and that. So even after I drank the water, I felt dizzy. But that's why I wasn't able to come back and finish the edification today early on the highways and hedges because the heat just completely took me. I was dizzy and giddy and everything. It was crazy. And I've never felt like that before in the heat, but I wasn't going to risk collapsing outside on the highways and hedges. So I had to pack it up really quickly to get out of there because I could feel myself getting really giddy from the heat earlier today. So that's why there was an abrupt finish to the edification that we was teaching earlier today out on the highways and hedges. Anyway, we're going to do kind of like a part two because this is something else I wanted to talk about earlier as well. And I figure let's just finish this today. You know, it's kind of cooling off now in the evening time for us. It's around 6:45 in the evening in the UK, so it's kind of getting a little bit cooler inside the house and outside. But this is the second part that I wanted to speak on today. I was speaking about, oh nation, gather yourselves together, O nation not desired. I also wanted to speak a bit about Esau-Edom, proof who is Esau-Edom today. And I spoke a little bit about that earlier, and I just wanted to finish on what it was I wanted to show you, because I was going to show you some things earlier as well regarding Esau-Edom, because we keep on hearing that Esau-Edom is done away with, that this nation of Edomites don't exist no more. Well, I got several books here that will tell you differently, all right? And I'm going to read from some of them. So we've got this book here, written by William Beeson, all right? When it says the Roman Empire, the Empire of the Edomites. Right? This was written by William Beeson. He speaks about who the Edomites were, the Romans. See, the Romans didn't realize that they were Edomites. They didn't realize that they were Edomites. Herod's father was an Edomite. Those people, and we've got another book here, written by Arthur Koestler, the 13th tribe. Basically, what Arthur Koestler was always trying to say is that if those people in the land of Israel that he knows are Khazars, if they've been calling themselves Israel or Israelites, Arthur Koestler's conclusion was that there must be a 13th tribe. And we know there's only 12 tribes of Israel. There's not 13. But that's what Arthur Koestler said. If they're the children of Israel, then there's got to be a 13th tribe. So he spoke about this, basically. You know, and he's got it on the back of his book, where he talks about this book traces the history of the ancient Khazar Empire, a major but almost forgotten power in Eastern Europe, which in the Dark Ages became converted to Judaism. And this is Arthur Koestler And that's the intro on the back of the book. And he's telling you exactly. All right. And it says Khazera was finally wiped out by the forces of Genghis Khan, but evidence indicates that the Khazars themselves migrated to Poland and formed the cradle of Western Jewry. Western Jewry, we talk about this all the time. Those people in the land of Israel that call themselves Israelis are what's known as Western Jewry. They are Khazars, they are Edomites. Khazars are Edomites. They descend from Esau. So, he goes on to say, to the general reader, the Khazars who flourished from the 7th to the 11th century may seem infinitely remote today, yet they have a close and unexpected bearing of our world, which emerges as Mr. Kostler recounts the fascinating history of the ancient Khazar Empire, a major but almost forgotten power in Eastern Europe. 95% of those so-called Jews that are in the land of Israel today that call themselves Jewish come from Eastern Europe. Poland, Hungary, Slovakia, Russia, Czechoslovakia, Slovenia, what's the other countries that got along the east coast there? Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania. This is where they come from. And he was a scholar. And remember, after he wrote this book, after Kostler, he was murdered. He was killed when he made this public knowledge. He says here, Mr. Kostler recounts fascinating history of the ancient Khazar Empire, major but almost forgotten power in Eastern Europe, as about the time of the Charmelais was emperor in the West. The Khazars' sway extended from the Black Sea, which is where is the Black Sea? Borders Turkey and Russia, right? And Ukraine, to the Caspian, from the Caucasus to the Volga. And they were instrumental in stopping the Muslim onslaught against the Byzantinians. The eastern jaw of the gigantic pincer movement that's in the west swept across North Africa and into Spain. So it says here, thereafter, the Khazars found themselves in a precious position between the two major world powers, the Eastern Roman Empire in Byzantium. So the eastern part of the Roman Empire at that time was ruled by actual real Israelites, by the true Israelites, known as the Byzantine Empire. And then you had the triumphant followers of Muhammad, which was Ishmael and his crew, right? The Ishmaelites. The Khazars was situated in between the two. All right. It says, as Mr. Kostler points out, the Khazars were the third world of their day, right? And they chose a surprising method of resisting both the Western pressure to become Christians and the Easterns to adopt Islam, rejecting both. They, the Khazars, so-called Jews today, converted to Judaism. That's what they did. In the second part of this book, The Heritage, Mr. Kostler speculates about the ultimate faith of the Khazars and their impact on the racial composition of social heritage of modern Jewry. He produces a large body of meticulously detailed research in support of a theory that sounds all the more convincing of the restraint with which it is advanced, right? So he talks emphatically about who these so-called Jews are in his book, right? That became to rule the promised land, that are in the promised land today. Then you've got this man here, William Beston, right? So it says here, William Beston, in his book, The Roman Empire, the Empire of the Edomites. So he knew that the Romans, right, through all his research, William Beston, right, found out from his own research, which we already know, that the Romans were Edomites. Strong evidence that the Roman Empire is of Edomite origin left our minds in bewilderment. It's one to be studied. The Church of England's Quarterly Review. That's the Church of England's Quarterly Reviews. And he put it on the back of his book. You see that at the top there? Strong evidence. See, it says there, of the Roman Empire is of Edomite origin, left our minds in bewilderment, vocab Malone, is one to be studied, the Church of England's quarterly review. So this is the conclusion that he came to, William Beston, right? And I said this earlier. William Beston, in his book, The Roman Empire, the Empire of the Edomite, contends that the Roman Empire was of Edomite origin, displaying a great amount of research into ancient documents and traditions, and gives some sound expositions of a few obscure parts of the sacred oracles. The Hebrew word Edom means red and is derived from the name of its founder, Esau, the elder son of the Hebrew patriarch Isaac, because he was born red all over. All right? What color is the so-called white man? Different shades of red. As a young adult, he sold his birthright to his brother Jacob for red pottage. The Tanakh describes the Edomites as the descendants of Esau, perhaps referencing this familial connection. The Old Testament commands, it says that Edom was an ancient kingdom in Transjordan, located between Moab to the northeast, the Arabah to the west, and the Arabian desert to the south and to the east. Most of its former territory is now divided between Israel and Jordan. Edom appears in written sources relating to the late Bronze Age and to the Iron Age in the Levant, such as the Hebrew Bible and the Egyptians and the Mesopotamians records. His scholarship and peculiar line of investigation enabled him to adduce that some strong evidence that the Roman Empire is of Edomite origin. That's who they are. So this man knows this, all right? He says the grounds upon which he conducted his inquiry are Jewish traditions, Hebrew and Phoenician etymology, and scripture prophecy, bringing to bear upon each branch some confirmatory evidence from either heathen historians or Christian philologists. The book is worthy of attention, is one to be studied and not glanced at. All right. He also notes here at the bottom here, he says the black Hebrew Israelites, also called the Hebrew Israelites, and he's also called the African Hebrew Israelites and the Hebrew Israelites, are groups of black Americans who believe that they are the descendants of the ancient Israelites. Well, we are, and we know we are, through Bible history, through Bible prophecy, through secular history. All right? So one belief often expressed is the belief that the Europeans are descendants of Israel's twin brother Esau, also known as Edom, and that's who they are. Both parties are talking about it. So William Beston is telling you that the Roman Empire, the Romans, which were the Europeans, descend from Edomites. Arthur Koestler is telling you that the so-called people in the land of Israel today descend from the Khazan Empire. And then we've got another book here that says, who is Esau-Edom? All right, who is Esau-Edom? Now, this book, do you know what it would cost you to get this book today? I've had this book probably about over 10 years now. You know what it would cost you to get this book today? This is the paperback price for this book today. Can you see it? Who is Esau-Edom? Amazon Prime, $3,000. Because they don't want you to have this truth. When I got this book, it was about $30, $40. So you to get this book brand new, paperback version, which I've got, would cost you $3,000. Amazon Prime, that's what it's going for. Because they don't want you to have this truth. Now, this book is written by Charles A. Wiseman, all right? A so-called Jew. Charles A. Wiseman. This is what it's titled. Who is Esau-Edom? Because they know. I'm only going to read a little extract from this book, right? It says here, so lucky. It says the origins of the Jews, and it's talking about the so-called Jews that are in the land of Israel today. Whoa. It says the Jews of today fall within. Drink some water. Satan, boy, don't want this truth to come out. It's a lucky. Let's get some water. They don't want you to hear this. This is what it says here. It says the origins of the Jews, and this is talking about the so-called Jews in the land of Israel today that call themselves Israelis. It says the Jews of today fall within two main types: the Sephardic Jews and the Ashkenazi Jews. Now they call themselves Ashkenazi, but they're not actually Ashkenazi, because Ashkenaz descends from Japhet. It's just that they occupied the lands that Japhet's sons occupied, which was Europe. And that's why they call themselves Ashkenaz Jews. It's not because they descend from Ashkenaz and Japhet's line, because they're Shem, right? They're not Japhet. They're not Japhites, they're Shemites. But they lived, these Edomites took control of all of Europe, remember, all right? That's why we call them Europeans today, because they pushed Japhet out of the land of Europe, which were the original inhabitants of Europe. This is what they did. So that's why they call themselves Ashkenazi Jews, not because they descend from Ashkenaz, it's because they occupy the land that Ashkenaz lived in back in the days of Japhet, Shem, and Ham. It says here, the Sephardim are also known as Spanish Jews, right? Which were actual real Israelites, the Sephardic Jews, which lived in Spain and Portugal. We were pushed out by these Edomites, right? Out of the lands of Portugal and Spain. The Sephardim are also known as Spanish Jews and constitute about 5% of the Jews in the world. The Ashkenazims are the Eastern European Jews, which are found in Poland, Russia, Germany, and Western Asia. That's who they are, Eastern Europeans. This group of Jews make up 90% of the so-called Jews in the world. Many reference and historical sources have unequivocally identified that the bulk of the Ashkenazi Jews were derived from a people known as Khazars. What did we just read out of Arthur Koestler's book? That they are Khazars, right? The original Jewish encyclopedia of 1905 revealed that the main stock of the Jews came from this Asiatic people known as the Khazars, right? That's in the Jewish Encyclopedia 1905. This is what he's quoting here. A people of Turkish origin whose life and history are interwoven with the very beginnings of the history of the Jews of Russia. That's who these Khazars are, right? Historical evidence points to the regions of the Ural as the home of the Khazars. It says the Khazars were a nomadic people who had no traces of Hebraic culture. They had been following a pagan and sex-orientated religion until they had officially embraced Judaism in 740 AD, right? Which is what Arthur Koestler made it quite clear in his book. While rejecting Christianity and Mohammedanism, the Jewish author and historian Arthur Koestler also concludes that the majority of East European Jews, and hence of worldly Jews, is of Khazar and not of Israelite origin. In the beginning of his book, he states, the large majority of surviving Jews in the world is of Eastern European, and thus perhaps mainly of Khazar origin. If so, this would mean that their ancestors came not from the Jordan, but from the Volga, not from Canaan, but from the Caucasus. That's why they're known as Caucasians, right? And that genetically, they are more closely related to the Hun, the Igu, the Magyar tribes, and to the seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, all right? He says here, Koestler then devotes the remainder of his 255-page book to prove this premise. For instance, A record of a letter by the Khaza king shows that he traced these people to Noah's son, all right? And the ancestors of all the Turkish tribes, all right? So we don't deny that they don't go back to Shem, because Esau comes from the line of Shem. I know Arthur Koestler believed that they went back to the line of Japhet. They just lived in the lands of Japhet. But they actually go back to Shem because that's where Esau, remember, Esau is Isaac's son, Jacob's brother. And they all go back to the line of Shem. It says the Khaza government was destroyed by the Slavs of Russia in 1016 AD. Around 1200 AD, the land was invaded by the hordes of Genghis Khan. These two events caused large numbers of Khazars to migrate to Poland and Western Russia, forming the cradle of Western Jewry. That's who they are. It says there is an abundance, right? There is an abundance of ancient place names in Ukraine and Poland, which derive from Khaza or Zihid, which means Jew. As the Khazars left their homeland of Khazaria and migrated north and west, they lost their names and became known as Jews. That's all they did. They assumed identity. That's what these so-called Jewish people did. Their Yiddish language and alphabet is not that of the Israelites. It's not that of the Israelites, Phoenician Greek, but an amalgamation of Aramaic, medieval German, Slavic, and Russian dialect. He's right. It's got right there. This is what we're reading. See? As the Khazars left their homeland, they migrated north and west. They lost their names and became known as Jews. Their Yiddish language and alphabet is not that of the Israelites. These are not our people, but as the amalgamation of the Aramaic and medieval German, Slavic, and Russian dialect. That's who these people are. The best historical evidence, therefore, shows that the Jews are not descended directly from the Israelites of the Bible, but derive much of their ancestry from the Khazars and other Turkish Asiatic blood. The Khazars are also of Edomite stock, and both stocks make up the present-day Jews, as the historian H.G. Wells states. You hear that? The Idumeans, which is the Greek word for Edomites, were made Jews, and the Turkish people Khazars were mainly Jews in South Russia. The main part of Jewry never was in Judea and never had come out of Judea. According to the Jewish Encyclopedia, the original stock of the Khazars came from the land of Edom. I'm not going to read no more, but I'm just going to show you on the screen so you can see. And this is a so-called Jew man that's wrote this, that's telling you this. You see that? Historical evidence therefore shows that the Jews are not descendants directly from the Israelites of the Bible, but derive much of their ancestry from the Khazars and the other Turkish people of the Asiatic blood. The Khazars are also of Edomite stock. Edomite stock. You see that? And both stocks make up the present-day Jews. Both stocks make up the present-day Jews. They're Edomites. The Turks are Edomites. The so-called Jews are Edomites. The Eastern Europeans are Edomites. The Western Europeans are Edomites. They know this. They know this. And this is a so-called Jew man that wrote this book, Charles A. Wiseman. You understand? So they know this. They know all of this. This is why these prophecies to do with the end times of Esau. This is why in here, when we look at the word Edom, that's Esau, and it talks about the end time prophecies. It can't hide from what's coming. Hold on. Petra, Edom. All right. So we're looking at the word. This is I know most of you know this, but this is for you. You know, you haters, you vocab Malone Christian apologists who believe that Esau-Edom don't exist today. They're here today in full living color, and they're going to receive their judgment. Esau-Edom, Edomites. And the last verse in the Zonovan's Bible Dictionary regarding Edom says this: Edom figures prominently in the prophetic scriptures as the scene of great future judgments. This is what they think they can run from. They can't run from these great future judgments. She is the only neighbor of the Israelites who was not given any promise of mercy from Yahweh, from the Most High. The only one. Because that's the wicked who the Bible speaks of. They've not just disappeared into thin air. The Romans just forgot that they were Edomites. The Idumeans that fought alongside Israel against the Romans in 70 AD, they were converts. John Hyrcanus, who was the high priest at the times, converted them into what we know today as Judaism. They are converts. Those Idumeans, those Edomites that fought alongside the Israelites against the Romans in 70 AD. The Romans didn't know that they were Edomites. Herod knew he wasn't Edomite. Herod's father, let me see if I can really find it. This is if I can really find it. Jonathan Hyrcanus. This is Josephus, all right? The traitor that after he got captured in 70 AD, he fought alongside the Romans, right? And he became a historian. He was a general, Josephus, in the Israelites' army against the Romans in 70 AD when the war started around 66 AD. And when he was captured, about 2 years into the war, he became a historian, and he also was helping out the what do you call it? The Romans. So this is the book of Josephus, right? Chapter 9. Right? Page 423. Page 423, right? Chapter 9. I'm going to quickly read it from here. It says, how after the death of Antiochus, Hyrcanus made an expedition against Syria and made a league with the Romans concerning the death of King Demetrius Alexandra. So I'm going down to verse 257. It says, Hyrcanus took also Dora and Marissa, cities of Idumea, which is Edomite cities, all right? And subdued all the Idumeans and permitted them to stay in that country if they would circumcise their genitals and make use of the laws of the Jews. And they were so desirous, just like they are today. Jonathan Hyrcanus says, and they were so desirous of living in the country of their forefathers that they submitted to the use of circumcision and the rest of the Jewish ways of living, at which time, therefore, this befell them, that they were hereafter no other than Jews. So that's when they were converted. They were so desirous to live in the land, just like how they are today, these devils. They're killing the Palestinians to claim ownership of the promised land, right? It says there, it says, but Hyrcanus, the high priest, was desirous to renew the league of friendship they had with the Romans. Accordingly, he sent an embassy to them, and when the Senate was received their epistle, they made a league of friendship with them after the manner of this following. So that's what he did after they defeated Antiochus and his crew, right? He converted those Idumeans. He converted those Idumeans to become Jews. Now, something else I want to read here. fix us, see this moving. No way. That's another one I want to pull out here. So I couldn't find it. It's like Cranus. That's, you know. I won't spend too long looking for it. I had it marked out anyway. Yeah, can't find it at the moment. But Antipater, who is Herod's father, he was an Edomite as well. That worked for the Romans. So these, when they try to tell you that Esau-Edom is done away with, they're full of, they're told. This is why all of these prophecies in the Bible speak on this. All right, and we're just going to bring out a few before we shut this down. This is why Isaiah 34 speaks on these end days prophecies about the land of Edom. All right, when it says Isaiah chapter 34, I'm going to start from verse 1 and just read down to verse 6. All right, so the book of Isaiah, let's quickly bring it up on the screen, just so you can see. Isaiah 34. Yahweh's wrath against nations. And one of those nations, we're going to see. Does the Most High specifically speak about a specific nation amongst all of these nations that his wrath is going to come up against, all right? So this is the Most High's wrath. So this is a future prophecy that has to be fulfilled, right? It says, come near, ye nations, to hear, and hearken, ye people. Let the earth hear, and all that is therein, the world, and all the things that come forth of it. Let every single nation listen to what Isaiah has to say here, right? This is basically what Isaiah is saying here in this prophecy. For the indignation of the Lord, Yahweh, right, is upon all nations, all nations. So Isaiah is making it clear that the indignation of the Most High is upon every single nation. So what we want to ascertain here, is he going to pick out a specific nation that he wants you to know amongst all of the nations that this indignation, this wrath is going to fall upon? Is there any specific nation, just like how the Lord chose Israel to be his special people above all the nations? Is there a nation that's special above all of the nations that the Lord's going to bear his indignation upon? Is there such a, because we have that with Israel. Israel is a chosen nation. The Israelites are chosen. All right. They're considered above all the nations on the planet Earth. Right. That's the nation that the Most High loves the most, that he gave the laws, commandments, and statutes to. Now we want to know, is there a nation amongst all the nations that the Most High hates the most, that he's going to bear his indignation upon more than any other nation? Let's see what the Bible says. For the indignation, which is righteous anger of the Lord Yahweh, is upon all nations, and his fury is upon all their armies. He has utterly destroyed them. That's what his son is coming to do. Isaiah 66 will make that clear. He has delivered them to the slaughter, to the slaughter. Their slain also shall be cast out. This is how it's going to go down when the Lord comes to take down all of these nations. And their stink shall come up out of their carcasses, and their mountains shall be melted with their blood. All the host of heaven shall be dissolved, because it's going to be a nuclear war. This is how this whole thing is going to start. And the heavens shall be rolled together as a scroll. That's the mushroom cloud that's going to come from this nuclear war. All right. And all the hosts shall fall down, as the leaf falleth off from the vine, and as a falling fig from the fig tree. All right. There's going to be so much destruction and devastation during the war of Armageddon. All right. Because the Lord is going to initiate this war between the nations before he himself turns up to take them down. For my sword shall be bathed in heaven. Where we're going to see the mushroom clouds. We're going to see the biological fallout from the nuclear missiles. The Lord's sword is going to be bathed in heaven. What is the Lord's sword? The Lord's sword is going to be the ICBMs, the intercontinental ballistic missiles. Behold, it shall come down upon where? Idumea. So the Lord has specifically mentioned the nation, Idumea. And upon the people, so Idumea is symbolic for, is the Greek word for Edom. Edom's HQ stronghold is the United States of America. So the Lord saw these nuclear missiles are going to come down upon Idumea, which is Edom, all right? And we can show you that. It's just the Greek word. It's just the Greek word for Edom. My sword shall come down. You see it showing you right there? Edom. That's all it is. Edom equals red. Edomites, Idumeans, the descendants of Esau. The Lord's sword is going to come down on the descendants of Esau. The place that is symbolic for Esau's stronghold is America. Edom. America is symbolically known as Edom. That's where the descendants of Esau's stronghold is. The land of Edom, Idumea. So the Lord's sword, which is going to be in those missiles, is going to come down upon Idumea, which is America, and upon the people, which are the Idumeans, of my curse to judgment. The people of the Lord's curse. Who are the people of the Lord's curse? Malachi 1 and 4, right? Whereas Edom, which is America, says, we are impoverished, but we will return and build a desolate places, which is what they did. Thus says the Lord of hosts, they shall build, but I will throw down. They shall call them, there you go. These are the people of the Lord's curse, the border of wickedness, which is America. The people, which is the Edomites of that country, against whom the Lord, Yahweh, has indignation, righteous anger forever. Forever. So they're both talking about the same thing. When it says upon the people of my curse to judgment, those are the people who the Lord has indignation, the people against whom the Lord has indignation forever. Those are the people of the Most High's curse. When you have indignation for a people forever, righteous anger, you hate them perpetually, right? You're the people of the Most High's curse. So upon the people of my curse to judgment, the sword of Yahweh is filled with blood. It is made fat with fatness and with the blood of lambs and goats. These are all symbolic for the amount of bloodshed that's going to be shed in the United States of America, Edom's stronghold. And with the fat of the kidneys of rams, for Yahweh has a sacrifice in Bozrah. Bozrah was the ancient capital for ancient Edom. This is talking about America. Symbolically, Bozrah represents Washington, the stronghold. For Yahweh has a sacrifice in Bozrah. And a great slaughter, where? In the land of Idumea, which is America. So the people, the Edomites, have to be here today because the Lord is coming to raise havoc in this place that's symbolically known as Edom. It's as simple as that. Isaiah 63 and 1. Who is it that's coming from Edom? Talking about America. Esau's stronghold, the white man's stronghold. This is the place that's going to come to the defense of Israel when Russia and the Iranians come up against Israel. Israel's going to do something that's going to draw Edom, which is America, to come to defend it. So in the midst of this war that's going to take place, the war of Armageddon, right, that we speak of time and time again, the scripture says, who is this that comes from Edom? With dyed garments from Bozrah. This that is glorious in his apparel, traveling in the greatness of his strength. I that speak righteousness, mighty to save. Who could that be? That's this man here coming in his glory, Isaiah 47. That's Yahushai. When it says here, come sit down in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon, another name for America, symbolic name for America. Sit on the ground, there is no throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou hast no more, shall no more be called tender and delicate. Why? because the Lord is coming to destroy this place. And the first is going to be the beginning of his destruction is going to be done by nuclear missiles. Take the millstone, grind the meat, uncover thy locks, make bare the leg. This is what we've done. We've taken the millstone, right? We've grind the mill. This is the word. We've uncovered thy locks. We've revealed who you are, Esau, who America is. It's Babylon the Great. It's Edom, who the Edomites are. The Edomites is the so-called white man. Make bare the leg, uncover the thigh, pass over the rivers. This is what we have done. Esau-Edom has to be here in these last days as a nation and as a place, as a nation of people and as a place for the Lord to come and judge and destroy and put into captivity. Thy nakedness shall be uncovered, yea, thy shame shall be seen. I, which is Yahushai, will take vengeance and will not meet thee as a man. You understand? He's not going to meet him as a man because he's going to be coming in all his glory. When it says here, I that speak in righteousness, mighty to save. This that is glorious in his apparel, because he's not going to meet these Edomites as a man. He's coming in all these celestial powers with all of the angels in the midst of World War III. Traveling in the greatness of his strength. I that speak righteousness, mighty to save. That's the same guy here, family. Yahushai. When it says, I will take vengeance and will not meet thee as a man. As for our Redeemer, the Lord, Yahweh, Hashem Yahushai of hosts, is his name, the Holy One of Israel, because Yahweh sending his son Yahushai. This is what Daniel's coming for. Everyone's going to, listen, these angels are all going to play a part as part of the Lord's army, the Lord of Sabaoth, the time of the end. And at that time shall Michael stand up. Who is Michael? The chief angel for Yahushai, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. Michael is the Lord's chief angel, the great prince, which standeth for the children of thy people. He's going to come in alongside Yahushai to redeem, to save the elect, not all of Israel, just the elect of Israel, out of this destruction that's coming. And there shall be a time of trouble. This is what we're talking about. This is what the Bible is speaking. This is why Edom has to be here. The Edomites have to exist. They have to be in here these last days, because there's going to be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, Esau. You got to be here because you're part of the end time prophecies. The Edomites, as a nation of people, have to be here. And they are the people, the ruling nation. They are the people that are going to be in the ruling power around the world when the Lord comes. The people that rule the world, that run the world, is the so-called white man. I don't care what the Chinese say, what the Arabs want to say, what the East Indians want to say. Forget about the Africans, because they know they got no say. I don't care what these other nations want to say in terms of what power they think they got, because one's got oil, iron resource, this and that. The ruling elite, the people that run this world, is the so-called white man. And it's all governed by the secret societies, the Illuminati. And the head of the table of the Illuminati, the head family, is the Rothschilds. These are your Edomites that rule. What Russia's doing in Ukraine is Edomites fighting Edomites, establishing its own Edomite power for the East. Because the Lord is going to use Esau to come up against Esau. That's the beauty of it all, before he intervenes. Before this takes place. And this is what it says, there shall be a time of trouble. That's going to be World War III, the War of Armageddon. Bombs are going to be dropping left, right, and center. Such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. We're going to witness the dropping of nuclear missiles from the east to the west, from the west to the east. And in the midst of that, the Lord is going to turn up with Michael, who's going to stand up, the great prince, who stands for the children of thy people, but he's only coming to stand up for the elect. Not all of Israel, not all of Michael's people, only the elect of them, the chosen. We speak about that all the time. It's all about the elect to be delivered out of the destruction and to witness it from the chariots, what the world ignorantly calls UFOs and UAPs. So it says there's going to be a time of trouble since there was a nation even to that same time. So Esau's got to be here because you're part of this time of trouble. And at that same time, thy people, Michael's people, which are the Israelites, only the elect, shall be delivered. Everyone that shall be what? Found written in the book. The only names that are written in the book are the elect of the children of Israel, the chosen. Many are called, but few are chosen. Just so you understand once more again. I know most of you know this, but for those that are just tuning into the teachings of the Hebrew Israelites about the end time prophecies, about who the nations are, who the people are, these events have to all take place. So Esau-Edom, who's prophesizing all of these end time prophecies, has to be here. So when Isaiah says here about Yahushai, all right? He says, wherefore art thou red in thine apparel, and thy garments like him that treadeth in the wine fat? This is symbolic for the amount of blood that Yahushai and Michael and the angels are the havoc that they're gonna wreak to take down Edom, America, and the Edomites across the world. And all of the other nations. So what Isaiah saw here was symbolic for the amount of bloodshed that's going to be shed. It says, I have trodden the winepress alone, and the people there was none with me. For I will tread them in mine anger and trample them in my fury. And their blood shall be sprinkled upon my garments, and I will stain all my remnant. That's what Isaiah saw, but it's all symbolic for the amount of blood. He saw Yahushua doing all of these things, but it's all symbolic for what's going to take place. For the day of vengeance, they say the Lord doesn't believe in vengeance. Well, he's coming to raise hell. For the day of vengeance is in mine heart. Can't wait to enact this prophecy on Edom, which is America, and the Edomites, the so-called white man. He can't wait. The Lord said, for the day of vengeance is in my heart, and the year of my redeemed is come. Who is he coming to redeem? He's coming to redeem the children of Israel, only the elect of Israel. How is it they truly believe that Esau, these Edomites, play no part? Jeremiah 49, play no part in these end times. Look, prophecy against Edom. These are end time prophecies. Edom as a place has to exist. The Edomites as a nation of people have to exist. There's no hiding. It says, concerning Edom. Are you listening, Vocab Malone? Concerning Edom. After what we read through, right? Thus says the Lord of hosts, is wisdom no more in Teman? Is counsel perished from the prudent? Is their wisdom vanished? That's the question. Because they've convinced themselves, even though their scholars know who they are, that the so-called white men is the Edomites. The church, the Edomites that are in the church have convinced themselves that Edom as a place don't exist no more, and that the Edomites don't exist. Because there is no more wisdom in those churches. None. There's no more counsel in those churches. I keep telling you that. Flee ye, turn back, dwell deep, O inhabitants of Dedan, for I will bring the calamity of Esau. So Jeremiah's writing this. By this time, Esau's dead and gone, right? So this has got to be talking about the descendants of Esau. Because Esau lived during the times of Jacob. They lived probably about 1,000 years before this. Jeremiah was on the scene. So he's talking about the descendants of Esau. He says, the Lord said, I'm going to bring the calamity of Esau upon him, the time that I will visit him. We are in those latter days of the latter days. This is those times. If grape gatherers came to thee, would they not leave some gleaning grapes? If thieves by night, they will destroy till they have enough. But I have made Esau bare. He's been revealed. I have uncovered his secret places. And he's done that through his prophets. And he shall not be able to hide himself. You can't hide yourself, Vocab Malone. You cannot hide yourself. The so-called white man can no longer hide himself and call himself white, Caucasian, or European. You are the Edomites that the Bible speaks of. You are these people that the Lord is coming to bring the ultimate judgment on. The other nations are going to be judged as well, but you're going to receive the ultimate judgment, the so-called white man. So the Lord says he shall not be able to hide himself. He can't. If he keep calling himself Caucasian and white, not as far as we're concerned, because we know who you are. White is just a color. It's not a nationality. Just like black is just a color. Black is not a nationality. You're different shades of pink and red. You are the Edomites that the Bible speaks of. The Israelites are different shades of brown, but some of us are also mixed amongst the other nations. We look like some of the other nations when the Lord comes to redeem his elect. His seed is spoiled, Esau, and his brethren, and his neighbors, and he is not. Come on. Leave thy fatherless children, I preserve them alive, and let thy widows trust in me. For thus says Yahweh, behold, they whose judgment, they're talking about the children of Israel, was not to drink of the cup, have assuredly drunken. So we have assuredly drunken of that cup. Slavery, genocide against Native American Indians, slavery, transatlantic slave trade, the lynchings, incarcerations, the oppression, the racism, the raping of our women, everything that these people did to us to put themselves on top. So those whose judgment was not to drink of the cup, which is the true children of Israel, have assuredly drunk. So we have assuredly drunken. So the question is, Esau, and art thou he that shall altogether go unpunished? Thou shalt not go unpunished, but thou shalt surely drink of it. You're going to have to drink out of that cup. And part of that cup is the nuclear missiles. For I have sworn by myself, says the Lord Yahweh, that Bozrah, symbolic for America, that used to be the ancient capital of ancient Edom, that Bozrah shall become a desolation. America, Esau, Edom's stronghold, shall become a desolation, and a reproach, a waste, and a curse. And all the cities of America thereof shall be what? Shall be a perpetual waste. You understand? That's what's going to take place. I have heard a rumor from Yahweh, and an ambassador is sent unto the heathen, saying, gather ye together, come up against her, and rise up to the battle. The Russians are going to gather their armies together to come up against America, to go to war against NATO and America before the Lord comes to finish the destruction. For lo, I will make thee small amongst the heathen and despised amongst men. This so-called white man is being despised. Why? Thy terribleness has deceived thee, and the pride of thine heart, O thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock, that holdest the height in the hill, though thou shouldest make thy nest as high as the eagle, which is what they did with all their technology and their satellites in the sky and their space stations, I will bring thee down from thence, says Yahweh. Also Edom, which is America, it's another symbolic name for America, just like Babylon the Great, the daughter of Babylon, Idumea, spiritually known as Sodom and Egypt. Also Edom shall be a desolation. Everyone that goes by it shall be astonished and shall hiss at all the plagues thereof. As in the overthrowing of Sodom and Gomorrah and the neighboring cities thereof, says the Lord, no man shall abide there, neither shall a son of man dwell in it. Simple. So there's no way they're telling you that Edom doesn't exist as a place, and the Edomites that run this place called Edom and that are placed all across the world in different nations are not here today. They're here, and they're going to face an almighty judgment. It's as simple as that. So I'm going to end it there. Proof. Who is Esau-Edom today? Ultimate proof. The so-called Jew man knows that he's Edomites. The so-called white Christians know that they are Edomites. They know that the Romans are Edomites. They know each other are Edomites, but they're trying to point the finger at each other. We know that the so-called Caucasian, European, so-called white man are the Edomites. We know that Edom is the United States of America. Both things have to be here because they're all being prophesied to be destroyed in these last days. It's as simple as that. All part of the end time prophecies. Otherwise, they would make the word of the Most High, Yahweh, and the Son Yahweh a lie, if that was the case. So anyway, on that note, I'm going to give all the praises and the glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakah Kodash. As always, double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone who are leading this word in truth and in spirit and in sincerity. And salawam to my fellow Hebrew Israelite brothers and sisters out there who have been edified by the truth of the scriptures of who we are, the true children of Israel, the Israelites, and who the other nations are. I know most of you know this, but I had to show you some unequivocal proof with these books earlier for you to see. Esau-Edom is here and will be judged. Major part, they are a major player in what's to come, the Edomites and Edom. So shalom, shalom, shalom family, all praises. Keep praying, keep safe, and hold on to this truth as always.